Excellent. I am, good morning. I'm bringing to order the Connecticut State Advisory Council for Special Education Executive Committee meeting on Thursday, November 10th at 9:33 a.m. Is there anyone here for public comment? I would say no.
No public comment.
Wonderful. Then let's go right to committee matters. November 30th meeting, agenda and planning. It's my understanding that we could not get, Jolie said no for in person.
The LOB as of yesterday had not determined that we could use their space for November 30.
Okay.
So if it's up to you all if we want to wait until next week and give them a few more days or call it this week.
Jennifer, you have more of a pulse on the parents and how difficult it is. Is it too difficult for them to wait another week and get childcare or?
It could be. I mean, it could be challenging. I don't know. Like, do we have a backup location that we were considering, or no?
We could use the State Department of Education space as an option. We could use the CAS building in Cheshire as an option. We could.
So the Brian,
Goodwin.
State Department of Education is parents have to pay for parking.
Yes.
Do they have to for CAS?
CAS is free parking, but we as a council could, not as a council, we could as an advisory council through the state reimburse parents for mileage and parking. Okay. They would have to pay, like we can't do, what we can't do though is, what do you call it? Validate or comp the parking in advance. So the parents would have to pay and get reimbursed for it. Okay, and so forms would have to be available for them, right? Yes, that's right. Yeah. Okay. And it would take, I'm not sure how long the reimbursement process would take, but it would most likely be a few weeks. Okay. I would say safe bet would be 3 weeks. Okay. Yeah, CAS has free parking. We also recently used Goodwin College as a space for meetings, so that's another option. Morning, Tammy. We're discussing the fact that the LOB is not available and optional in-person places, and I had mentioned that it costs to park at State Board of Ed. And Ryan was discussing how we could get people reimbursed. Okay, I guess the other option is virtual, but I know that we wanted to separate the virtual from the in-person, so we do have some options. Plan B, and then of course, if there's other people that have either locations or ideas, we can move quickly and try to secure those locations as well. Could we just secure a backup location so people know it's in person, so they know to get childcare? Yes, we can do that. We can send that message out this week. Okay.
Brian, there was some other buildings that we had had our meetings at over the years. I don't remember the towns and stuff like that, but I know there had been some other
Southington,
buildings.
yeah, we held a lot of meetings in Southington Town Hall when Meg was part of the council. So I could reach out to the Newington director to see if that space is available location-wise, if that's good for the group. It's sort of central. Brian, I'm trying to think of other locations. I know Plainfield hosted once in the middle school.
That's far from me now, so. And I was the only person it was close for.
At the time, yeah, there was a few people that we actually had great public participation at that meeting. I think we had 3 or 4 parents that arrived live and in person to share comments. But yeah, I mean, we're open to any, we can reach out. There's plenty of places that we can reach out to that have free parking. And
what is the superintendent's organization's place? Yeah, because I just was there. Yeah, I was just there for a work group last week. And it had a pretty good size room that would fit the council if it was available.
They do.
Brian, you could also check with Alicia. Is it Sandra Johns? She has all the contact information for Wallingford Park and Rec. and it's pretty quick off of 91, and it's free parking.
Okay.
And that's actually, I think, closer for Jennifer and I.
Is it? Yay.
Yeah, well, for Wallingford, you just go up for me, you just go up to Durham and over, so.
All right.
That's the transition task force. Before COVID, that's where they were meeting.
Sounds good. So we'll look at and call a couple places and have a backup. And maybe we'll say, you know, get childcare in order, give the date and the time, make sure people hold that, let them know we'll reimburse for mileage, and it'll either be at the legislative office building or the second location once we get confirmation.
And we need to make sure we extend the time that we're reserving because of the executive committee immediately following.
Okay.
Full sack. I just want to remind you. I'm sure Jolie has that on her schedule.
Sounds good. Morning,
so I skipped, unfortunately. Sorry about that. Legislative breakfast was actually first. Do you have any update where we are on that?
The only thing I'm aware of is that we have the form to request a legislative breakfast. That's where we are.
Okay.
Unless there are activities that happen that I'm unaware of.
No, Jolie had shown me the email that she was preparing to send out, and I asked her if she would. It didn't look like November 30th was happening, and I was saying January 11th.
Yeah.
With the new legislators, if that was possible.
There were
I haven't connected with Brian.
Oh, there she is.
Connected in a while. Hi. I haven't connected with Brian in a while, so we'll be connecting. And that's where I would kind of need to just talk to him about the logistics of the
Do we want to discuss it now since we're all connected now?
You guys go for it. It's your
well, what is
the
logistic question? Are we, I know there was emails that went back and forth as far as that the breakfast couldn't be held in the legislative office building itself. Is that accurate, or did I read that wrong?
You read that at one point, and then I clarified that we cannot hold a breakfast inside of one of the hearing rooms. The legislative office building does have a private, a private, they call it a private dining room, but it's not. Susan, actually, after Susan and I connected, Susan mentioned that she actually met in that room. It's just that it really, isn't like this big private dining room, so people don't know that that's what it is. So they do have a space that I can check into, but we weren't being approved for the November 30th. So then we were going to move to, I believe, January 11th for that approval of a breakfast.
That's our next full council meeting that was scheduled to be in person from 9 to 1.
Yes, but we cannot hold a meeting in the LOB at that time because of the fact that they're in session. But but the use of that private dining room has nothing to do with them being in session.
Well, does it make sense to try to schedule a date that's not on our meeting date?
I think so.
Okay.
That's a problem. Yeah.
See how quick he is with solutions, Susan? That's why I'm like, let's wait for him.
See
how quick he is? Bam.
I would look for something after we've submitted the priorities in the annual report. So after January 15th, possibly. Is that a good idea? Or
I have a question. Are we going to have attendance? I mean, are people going to attend if people are not there for a meeting? I mean, you're asking people to come back to the LOB if it's not a meeting date. That's just a question I have.
Right.
I mean, because it's a drive.
Good question.
I don't think the whole council has to be there. I think a group of representatives of the committee should be there to speak to the legislators about what the committee does. It's an opportunity for, even if it's just the executive committee, to report back on what your priorities are and what you want out of the legislative session to come. That would be my advice, because I mean, it's nice for people to, it's nice
Right.
for the whole committee. You can invite the whole committee, but like Sean's bringing up a good point, is that, you know, out of the 30 members or so, you may get 15, or 10 on which is okay, as long as someone's there. Someone would have to take the lead from the council to present a 10-minute overview of what the council is and what our priorities are. And then it's more of kind of like a milling around and talking to, right, of the legislators that attend.
Right. And it's
Jeff,
a small
I don't know
space.
if you have insight as far as timing, like once the session starts versus before, or a little bit further down.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I was kind of like waiting for, like, you know, the elections to happen and
Yep.
see what was going on. And then I knew that Bob Duff was going to get reelected. He's a Senate Majority Leader. He's a friend of mine. And but I didn't want to start asking questions about the legislative session before the elections, you know. So, but I will follow up now, just to find out when they're starting and what's going on. So
that'd be great. And Susan, if you'd like us, Sean and I and Jolie, we can check in with the Education Committee, the Legislative Education Committee, for their advice on timing, because they'll probably have a sense of when the traffic will be high versus it would be a shame to hold a session and then only have a few legislators there,
Right.
versus a larger capacity. And especially, we would want to make sure someone from the Ed Committee was present for sure.
Yes, definitely. And also, isn't there an early, there's a children's committee. There's a children's committee as well. And I believe Representative Comey is on both of those, and I can also reach out to her personally, if you would like me to. When we have more solid.
That would be great. Yeah. I mean, feel free to reach out to her and ask.
She's come to your meetings, right?
She has, yeah. She's been to several council meetings in the past. So I think that's great. Jeff, if you could reach out between now and our next meeting, and Susan as well, and then Jolie and Sean and I will do the same. And because we'll try to get the timing right.
And if we are unable to get a legislative breakfast, Jeff, what do you know about when committees have just their previous, you know, they have like an information gathering meeting? Do you know when that happens? I believe that's at the beginning, where we could actually, a couple of us could go and say, hi, this is what this committee does.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to figure that out. Okay. I mean, what I've been generally doing in the past is Brian's has the liaison, has been very, very good and been giving us heads up as to legislation that is in particular of interest to us. But as far as like that preliminary preamble stuff, I don't know, but I'll try to find out.
Right, because as soon as what Catherine is working on, the little elevator speech, I mean, because you only get a couple of minutes to speak.
Yeah,
we had that prepped, because there's a good chance we won't be having a legislative breakfast at this rate, with the response that, you know, with the confusion that's going on at the LOB, it seems like.
Okay, so I will do some exploratory investigation.
Wonderful. What do you think, Brian? Move on to the next. Sean, move on to the next.
Yeah, I think we have a good plan on that, and we'll be in communication via email as we gather information.
Good. All good, Jolie?
Absolutely. I'm capturing all the notes here.
Thank you, hon.
You got it. Yep.
Okay. And now
and I just wanted to mention that used to be on top of everything a lot quicker, but if you see things go a little, time goes a little by when you're reaching out to me or need to hear from me, just send me that message again.
Oh, okay.
Or respond to me and say, hey, you forgot me.
Okay. All right.
Well, technically I did it, but I need an answer.
Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, priority work groups. The work groups that we were discussing about just cleaning up the unemployment, and then cleaning up the LRE. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts? I was confused by the email of, I was confused of what priorities, because I kind of went back to, actually, there's no meeting notes online for any of our priority breakout sessions.
Yep, we don't
Okay.
record the priority sessions. So that would be only in you would find
Okay.
those notes within us. We'd send it to you or summarized in the annual report.
Okay. All right. Yeah, all right. Those are super.
Just because when we go out into breakout session, I usually in the Zooms, we weren't recorded. And even now, that's where Matt stops.
Okay. Okay.
Susan, if it's okay, I can give kind of a high level just to kind of propose a couple things around the priorities moving forward. Yeah, so during our last full council meeting, we were able to break out into groups and work through the five different areas. We worked through 3 of the 5. So each group was spent time on one, and the plan was to kind of move through more than one, but just given the depth of conversation, which was great, we were able to log those 3. So we still have 2 areas that we need input from the council, and that's okay. These are brand new priorities as of August or our summer session. So I don't want this group or committee to feel pressure to do work before the annual report, because the annual report spans back to last year's priorities and just starting this year's priorities. So our report goes from January through December. And so the new priorities are even truncated from August through, December. So those that's just sort of a high level overview of how we want to approach this, because I think one of the suggestions was to create work groups now on those 2 areas and get working on that to inform the annual report, which is fine. I mean, that's an option, but we just want to make sure we're incorporating the entire council into that input and not just, and giving it time to simmer a little bit. And for people to think about it, look at data, have some presentations on for the remainder of the year. So how we've approached that in the annual reports is we're kind of straddling 2 different years and summarizing the priority and recommendations, and then the new priorities, which may or may not have recommendations at this time.
Oh, okay. I am going by what I have is the document where I put together where we had the priorities prior to our summer meeting.
Yep.
And I totally agree with what you're saying, having the entire group be able to have input. But definitely one of the things we were talking about was LRE. We definitely need time for that, because that's on the past priorities. And it seems like it's a current and a past priority.
Yep.
Okay, I got that one right. And then staff, teachers, all that recruitment is a past priority, because I think it was actually, I have it on the SAC priority split thing, and then it was in the last annual report, right? And Secretary Cardoza in March was saying that's a priority, right? Am I correct? I'm just trying to get all the priorities, like just the basic topics down that's going in the annual report. Am I correct so far?
Yes. And we have
I have the thing, student voice is our 3rd one, right? Okay, I'm just getting this correct. Social emotional, that's been ongoing, correct?
Yep.
And then employment experiences for students. Those are that's what I have as pre July 13th priorities. Is that correct? So those are what we're working on for the annual report. And then I'm sure someone will move over and continue, because especially recruitment, all of these are things that aren't going to be solved, and it'll move over to next year too. So am I correct?
Wasn't employment one of the new ones?
Everything that was, their employment is a new one. So is staff shortages. So is LRE. Those, even though they were last year, the 5 that you're working on still moving forward, there's some overlap from last year, which is absolutely fine. We just want to, the recommendations again can be a combination of the work that was done previously and the work that's starting this year.
Great.
We talk a lot about this, about the council. The council is not really designed as an action-oriented group. It's designed to advise on the topics and the unmet needs of students with disabilities. We do a lot of actions and activities, but the structure really isn't designed as, okay, here's our action plan to get this done and that done and to create.
Right.
Having said that, these subcommittees that the executive council and the chair can delineate are able to then further inform and advise in different areas. Like you have the dispute resolution. And so there was a discussion or suggestions on creating a priorities subcommittee. And I just want to I want to maybe rephrase that or rethink that, because that's the priorities are established. Writing the annual report is different than working on the priorities, I guess is what the line that I'm trying to delineate from. And in the past, we've created an action template to be able to finish the annual report, which is due in January. And then each person's each person or people are responsible for writing those sections of the annual report.
Right.
So we put together just a template that we can look at today. And like you're doing, Susan, going back and looking at 2021 and looking at 2022 and seeing, are there some recommendations that we can transfer right over to the new one that may not have happened in the last legislative session, or things we want to reinforce? And then some new areas as well. But I just didn't want this group to feel pressure to say we have to do all of our work in the next 3 months on those new priorities.
Right. No, but I do know that the people, then the group that was on employment and the group that was on LRE felt like they didn't get to finish. So that should definitely, at least their talk, maybe that should be the two that we first put at the top priority for our meeting on the 30th.
Either, Susan. I mean, I don't think any group felt like they finished their work.
Really?
I felt like it was just, there was a limited amount of time and there was a lot of discussion. So I think that this work, as far as the breakout groups, needs to continue. I think we're just scratching the surface as far as the breakout groups are concerned.
Right. And the annual report is read by who?
Everybody we send it to. They love it.
It's great. So but we need to make sure that we have whatever if there's any point that's up to date, like right now, we have to make sure that we're up to date with what's kind of happening in the classroom. Is that it? Do I have the right thought? Like if there's a priority that we should not push off, that we really need to just put in the annual, a section, a discussion about a priority, an important point, or like your action plan. I just want to make sure that it's included so that we can, Tammy, I don't know. Someone jump in, because I am so new. Like, I don't even know what my part is, other than I know Tammy writes, there's a letter in the beginning for the annual report.
So, Marian,
Jeff sent a note.
You want to share that cell, that kind of template of who does what area?
Yeah, I've been kind of waiting for that.
Let me pull that up now. I'm going to share my screen. And Jolie sent out in advance the annual report from 2021 and then the annual report for 2022 that is we could use as a working template.
We were hoping to use a draft so that you could actually write in it.
Yeah, we can set up a draft, a collaborative document in Word that we're all working on at the same time.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And Jeff actually just put in the chat that, did you see that? Oh, Brian, thank you for sharing. Great. That's what I would love to know. Who's responsible for what? And Jeff was saying we need to have a deadline report, I think. And for me, I personally need a deadline that's earlier than others, because as a performer, this is my season. This is my busy time.
Yeah, absolutely.
unfortunately.
No, yeah, absolutely. So this is the template we've used in the past, and started to just jot down. It's good, like even for the executive committee, most of the executive committee's names are on here. That doesn't mean that we don't reach out to other people to help inform the report, but just who's taking ownership or
great.
responding. Now, the annual report is due this year on January 15th, correct?
Yes.
We're in an, so overall, let's just make a note of that up here for now. So we can kind of work back from our calendars. We have 2 holidays coming up before that. There are more than 2 holidays, but 2 big ones. So there aren't a lot of days really when you think about it to be able, did I create another?
So I'm assuming if our January 11th meeting would be our final, does the entire committee review it first, or is it just the executive committee?
We do share with the committee, but it doesn't have to be approved by the committee.
Okay, that's good. That's great information. In a meeting. That's super information. Okay.
Yep. So Susan, here's one for you.
Oh, thank you.
So we have message from the chair, and you can see the sample from last year, and then we have other ones as well. Good. This one we really can be, procrastinate is not the right word, but we can get this to Jolie really close to the end of the timeline here. It's you could be working on it. We don't need it far in advance. We just kind of plug it in right at the beginning of the report.
Okay.
So Jolie, let's work back from January 15, given the holiday season and everything. When would you need a draft of all of these sections complete by to be able to style guide and get in the format that we need?
At least a week.
Okay.
Because I'd like to say I don't need that much time, but I don't.
Right. We'll be working on it as we go, but to have a full draft.
Yep. In case there's anything else, we got the new call center coming up. We got due process where I said, so just there's a few things going. I don't want to, I could possibly,
let's
do it sooner, but let's go for a week, please.
Let's be a little more conservative and say 2 weeks.
Let's go.
All right. So let's say we would get the final draft to you by January 15th is a Sunday, so we would want to send it the Friday before. So let's say December 30th.
That's great. I'm out of town the beginning of January.
Okay.
Wonderful.
And we would want.
What are the dates that you're out, Susan?
Our goal.
I think it's just the. I can't access my calendar because I'm on my thing. It's either the 3rd through the 7th or the 7th through the 10th. But what I can work on there.
Yeah, no, I still have time to connect with you after. Like if I need, I'll be, that's fine. If I have to do my thing, and then if we have a question or something for you, we will just have it prepped and ready for you to answer. Okay, and great. Move forward if that is a case at that time.
Yeah, and I'm sure I can find spots to.
Yeah. Oh no, we'll get it done. We've done this before, so we will get everything ready and just plop in.
Wonderful. Wonderful. This is so exciting because I'm one of those people, my brain has to have organization.
Yep. Once we get to the last 2 weeks, it'll be in the report will then be like in my hands, and anything that gets worked on after that will kind of just get provided to me. Great. And I insert in just so that we I keep the format of whatever I'm doing.
Great.
So we'll work it out.
Yeah, because last night I literally had a Jurassic Park dream, and I was trying to get to this meeting.
Oh no! I never heard that from a Jurassic Park dream.
Dinosaurs. So I was like, oh, it's like usually as a performer, you have a performance dream where you show up and you don't know your lines, but this is definitely dinosaurs. So
So one thing I forgot to mention, I apologize, you could add, as an executive committee, you can add new sections, you can remove sections that we've had in the past. This is just a starting point for us to consider.
Right.
But I do have,
Is
sorry, Susan, go ahead.
I'm sorry, is this where you update do we update in the annual report how the rollout is going on the new IEP or the call center? Is that going annual report, or is that something completely entirely different in your department?
We would not
Okay.
put an update on CT SEDS unless you asked us to do that, or, it was
I would
part
love
of
the call center and to be at least mentioned. I would love like any resources that people would just, to remind people about, if that's possible.
Yeah, so this is different. So the intent of this report,
Okay,
again, is to advise the State Department and the legislature. So it's not meant to, for the public to be aware of resources or things of that nature.
Okay.
Now, but having said that, the call center is part of the work that the Dispute Resolution Committee was interested in and advising on. So that would absolutely be part of the update.
Fabulous, because I know legislators, when their constituents call, it would be wonderful. That was actually a tool for them to say, reach out to this call center.
Yeah. So here, just what we've done so far in the dissemination of the action plan. Great. This is the message from the chair that leads the report. The executive summary is very straightforward and doesn't really change from year to year other than the dates. So I have us as an action item here to do that, to update that and put it in, plug it in. The council leadership, we can rewrite as well, and the dates would change in the transition from Tammy and Jen to Susan and Jen, and then we would update all of the committees. The membership update is Catherine's piece, so that we have Catherine here for the membership, working alongside with Jolie to make sure what our vacancies are and the current makeup of and then we usually have an addendum, right, or an appendix.
Right.
With I believe that was Tammy. I think you initiated this appendix and including it in the report, not only for current members, but also members that served at any time in the year.
Right. I also, because I had printed out the reports, and in the 2021, 2022 priorities, I guess, do you go through that and say, what are we keeping from the year before?
We don't. We CSDE does not. The executive committee does. Yes.
Is that something that you think would be smart to put on the 30th meeting that I can send, or I have it printed out? It's the 21, 22 priorities. And
yeah, we're getting there.
That paper.
We're definitely getting there, and then you could, whatever you think is the best mechanism to do that, and how we're going to do that in the next couple of months, we can plug it in here.
Jen, I would love your input, or Sean, or anybody's on bringing that to the full committee. That document, give it to them ahead of time, and because I notice, the future considerations is what we're doing. A lot of it is the teacher retention. And then I also noticed there's a concern at because Tammy, I assume you put this together because at the end there was a concern about the money and people running out of the special money that came out. And I'm trying to remember where that was. I'll have to find it.
Yeah, so let's quickly work through the council activity and keep going. No, you're right on task with this, because that's where we are with the priorities section. Now the council activities part, and again, these are things you can decide to do a little bit of a different way, but this is mostly our task. We just list the meetings when they were held.
Okay.
for each of the different subcommittees.
Okay.
So that's another one. Jolie, a lot of these I know rely on you, so I want to give enough time in between all of these.
Jolie.
So is
Brian, I could help with that too, because I did that last year. I just pulled it off from the website.
Okay. Thank you, Tammy. That would be a huge help.
Thanks, Tammy.
I went to all the minutes, and whenever we had a presenter that was on the minutes, I included that in the activity. I literally printed all the minutes, spread them on my desk, and highlighted what went where. So I'm happy to take the first stab at that if that would help Jolie.
Tammy, thank you.
I don't mean to speak for Jolie, but I'm sure that would be very helpful. Sorry, Jolie.
You guys know, I mention it all the time. My boss knows me. He know I got quiet, and I was like, I was over here doing air high fives to Tammy. Yeah.
All right. So let's try.
Thank you so much.
Let's put a due date for that, Tammy. How about December
1st?
Okay, great. No, that's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. The function of the council, correct me if I'm wrong, is just a cut and paste. Because we have, so that's an easy one. We can do that. Right. We can do that right away. That can be a November. What day is it today? We have a holiday. Oops.
Can you believe it's already November 10th? Oh my God.
I know. Thanksgiving is right around the corner. All right, let's say we're just going to copy that over next week. And we'll say, so we'll give that a November 17th as well.
I literally just lost my paper.
Now we go back to Tammy, Susan, your conversations around here. These are two that take a little bit, most of the time, I would say, and most of the important content are in these two sections. So we have the process for determining unmet needs of students.
Okay.
It's good for probably a couple people to work together on this and read through and say, well, we didn't really do this last year, or we did, or, what were some other activities that we utilized to bring back information to the council to be able to determine the unmet needs. So
I'd love to work on any of this with someone who is, knowledgeable, because I feel like I'm asking so many questions. You want to do it and help me?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, because I feel like right now I'm asking you all so many questions just because I'm trying to get a handle on how this works.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's give will take a little bit more time than next week. So Jen and Susan, you tell me how comfortable you are into December to get this done. Like the first week of December.
For me, it would be the second would be great. How about you, Jen? By the second, okay.
Okay, December 2nd. And these are drafts to get to us, within the document by then. So even if it needs some polishing, that's okay. All right, very good. No, this is great. Now we have a very solid plan here now for most of the getting this in really good shape by our, December meeting for sure.
Where does the ad hoc update come, or is that not something?
That would be right in here for priorities.
Okay, that's ad hoc. Okay.
Yeah, so any ad hoc committee would be included here. Now, this is where we overlap between last year and this year. Mm-hmm. So we would that's back to your question, Susan, and how we want to involve the council in the next couple. Here's the LRE considerations from last year. So it's really a process of reviewing what we did last year, continuing to gather current information to inform, and then putting it together in a streamlined way for the legislature to and for the Bureau in the CSDE to read.
Definitely. I guess only section of that priorities, because what I was talking about when I was reading the last priorities, I don't know where I was reading it or in the annual report, there was a concern that money would run out the funds, the extra funds that people were given. And I know legislators, that is usually anything that has to do with appropriations or funding is so high on their list. So if I was a legislator and I'd read your last annual report, I'd be saying, what happened with the funds? And I don't think that's something our council talks about.
So there's federal funding that came through as an emergency response to the pandemic.
Right.
ESSER 1 is done and over with.
Right.
ESSER 2 and 3 and ARP ESSER still run through another year. So the concern for districts and for everyone is that when federal dollars grants end, the districts have to have plans in place so that there isn't a cliff where they said, we're going to use the federal funds to hire 6 social workers. And then at the end of that second year, they have to lay off the 6 social workers. Now, we try to advise districts to ensure that the activities in those federal funds are sustainable, and districts work hard to do that. And sometimes they supplement local money on that. But it's something that the council would just probably want to make aware. The legislature is aware. We're communicating that through the CSDE. And so I don't want you to feel responsible for letting, the only means to let legislators know. But from a special education perspective, the extra funding is great, but the need to fully fund special education from state and federal that's paramount, right? I mean, that should be a stance that the council takes. I'm not trying to
I completely agree.
But that, for special education to be fully funded as was designed is a good message for the, both federal and state to hear.
Okay, and would that go under unmet needs or?
The unmet needs section is more of a way of how did we gather information to be able to determine what the unmet needs are. And then the priorities are more under recommendations. So if we think of these, these 2 sections here, this is like what our priorities are. And then the recommendations here would be, fully fund special education.
Is that something that you or Sean or somebody who has wonderful knowledge of this can put like a paragraph together, a clear one? And I just saw Jeff says he can't get his camera and mic stopped working. Are you back?
So he just wants to know, Brian, when he has to have legislative, I think update. When should I update the legislative committee materials by? Is Jeff's question.
And his timeline.
So that's in the, let's see.
And I just want to give you guys a heads up.
We're done. Yeah.
Yep, we're at 10:15, and I just because we're being streamed, I just don't know how much longer we have with Matt being online with us. One thing I wanted to just mention quickly, I want to cover something for Catherine Sum and capture it in the minutes. I will get an answer back for her and respond after I've connected with Brian, unless I just don't want to, cut you off from finishing this conversation on the report. But Brian, Catherine wants to know for the recruitment flyer, she'd like to know if you have a preferred method that you'd like the group to work on. Is it, to go back and forth? Would you like them to set up like a Google document on their end? Would you like us to set up a channel in Teams for the membership committee to work back and forth? So that was a question from Catherine Sum to you, Brian.
Okay.
Okay, so I can get the answer. I captured it on the minutes. We can talk about it offline and I can respond to her.
Okay. Yeah, Google usually doesn't work for the state entities, but if a flyer is one page, so it's not a big, right? They're talking about one page, and I'm sure it's a Word or a PDF, so that's not a problem.
Yep. I let, as long as we don't initiate the Google Doc, like on our end, it could be used. We just can't start it up on our end because we don't have access.
So just circling, thank you, Jolie. So circling back to Jeff's question on the legislative committee, last year's report, we just summarized what the legislative committee does and the times that they met. So now, having said that, we could build that out more in this year's report. There isn't going to be anything to report for this upcoming legislative session. But so I'll take my lead from you all on that, on how we want to incorporate.
Wasn't one consistent recommendation that you guys gave was to include a member of the SAC on any legislative work group? So couldn't that be a general thing that we put as a recommendation from the legislative committee?
Yes.
To relevant, I guess we should say relevant work groups.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Jeff, if there was anything else that you found yourself consistently recommending for each bill that would be general.
The only other one I can think of from this group is the to keep the burden of proof on school districts in due process hearings. That's been a consistent advice from this council.
Wonderful. So glad we're doing this, and you'll share this out as soon as you can.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
So for the priorities, just so we have a little bit of direction, and I know we're a few minutes over, so I appreciate everybody's time over here. This is this is the content that's really critical for the report. Not that the others aren't, but how do we want to divide and conquer here? I know there was one suggestion to, for to create subcommittees, but the amount of time we have between now and then the activities that we want to involve the full council on may or may not lend themselves to that. I think this group would be tasked with looking at last year's report, determining what recommendations we would want to carry over the council. Sorry, I keep saying we. The council would want to carry over into the report this year. And then taking any new recommendations that aren't included in our priorities that we feel prepared and ready to do. Like Sean was saying, we've just sort of scratched the surface on a lot of these topics, but there may be recommendations that the council's ready for to talk about the importance of LRE or the importance of student voice in special education, those types of things. So we still have a bit of, Jolie, when's our next meeting? Is the November 30th in person our next meeting? Yeah, we don't have a virtual between now and then. So nope. we could do one more activity on November 30. I think we should start to review before then.
I feel like the document, I don't know, Brian, if this is what the SAC priorities challenges 2022, if we could send that out like the week of the meeting, whether it's Monday, to the group, and what other and the notes from the last meeting of the priorities, because no one has those notes. Does that make sense? The notes that you took?
We can send that out. We can send that out today.
That would be wonderful, because then I think if people already had if they chose to have a peek at it, the meeting would go a lot. If they already digested, meeting might go a little quicker. But at least that's how I work. I have to kind of digest a lot of material.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Yeah, because if I had those old priorities, that would be so much easier.
All All right.
Yeah.
So we'll
And I
keep
know it-
working on this. I think we have a great start, and I want to put due dates here. So
Thank
let's
you.
say that we wanted to get the report to Jolie to, what did I say, December 30th?
Yeah.
Right. So let's try to give ourselves a deadline here of December 15.
Okay.
And we'll give
I don't know
ourselves.
if that, so I have a concert on the 18th, so I don't, that's a possibility for me, so.
You have a
I will
concert on
not be, I won't be even accessible really that much that week.
the week of the 18th?
Yeah, the week of the 18th, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No need to apologize.
'Tis the holidays.
Yeah. All right, so that's the following week. The 18th is, so you're not available the week of the 12th.
Yeah, the week of the 12th, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry
All
about
right.
that. I don't have.
No, that's okay.
In front of me.
So do we want to give ourselves then until the 23rd here for these sections?
Sure, right before Christmas.
Because I don't think we want to have this over the holiday.
No.
Still unfinished with the need to finalize by the 15th. At least, and again, these are drafts. That doesn't mean over the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks, we can't make adjustments.
Great. Thank you so much for adjusting that for me. I totally appreciate it.
Of course.
Great.
Okay.
And then you kind of got the agenda, and then, the agenda for the November 30th. And then, I know we're still working on the responsibilities, but in the membership update, Jeff, I don't know if you can hear me, but I wanted to get in the minutes officially that you are a member of the executive committee as the chair of the legislative committee. Is that good? I don't know. Poor Jeff. It's in the minutes. If he can't, doesn't say anything, he's in.
That's right. He has no recourse now.
He's not commenting. He must be very excited over there.
Right. If there's anything that information they think I should have, or anything I should be doing, or guidance, I would so greatly appreciate it. Oh, Jeff put thanks, I think.
I'm sorry.
So,
no, this was great, report. Susan. Thank you for your organization and all the questions. And I think you have veterans on this committee for sure that have been involved in many of the annual review reports in the past. So I feel like we're in good shape here.
Great. I just don't want to stress anybody out at in the holiday time themselves. Everyone has a lot to do, so I just want to make sure.
Once we start to populate that 2022 document with some of the finalization, that helps allay the anxiety a bit too, because until you organize it by section, it can be overwhelming and anxiety provoking.
And your Jurassic Park dreams.
Yeah, we don't want any more Jurassic Park dreams.
So definitely action items. We're getting the template, correct? And the draft version of the 2022.
Yes.
We can mark it up. That would be a shared draft version that everyone's marking up?
Yep.
Okay.
You'll get a link. You'll get a link directly to the document.
Beautiful.
And the last action item I have is to send out the notes from our breakout sessions from the last meeting.
Beautiful. Yes. And the priority challenges, in case, I'm sure people have it already because you've already sent
we'll
it out,
resend
but they've lost.
We'll put it together because that's important to have those two pieces together. Yeah.
Anyone, anything else? Any wonderful comments, suggestions? Share your knowledge? No? Okay. Brian, what do you think? What should we do?
I think we're good.
All right, we're calling the meeting. We'll adjourn at, what time is it? 10:27 a.m. Connecticut State Advisory Council for Special Education Executive Committee adjourned.
Very good.
Have a good day.
Bye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, thank you.